Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. I'm Gary Mack from an
And
undisclosed location.
yes, in the snowy undisclosed location. Is that something about the North Pole maybe out the window here on the video?
Yeah. And hear the snow, sleigh bells, and everything. I'm up here visiting Mr. Claus to make sure everything's going all right. You know, I used to do some consulting work in my other lifetime, and he asked for a little bit of help, and I thought I'd come up and visit him. And so, how are you, Rich? It's been a while since we spoke.
Doing pretty good. Yeah, probably around one of our other favorite holidays, Thanksgiving was our last show thereabouts. And yeah, I was just reviewing our year of podcast, our great Halloween show, of course. I think this is going to rival that though for Christmas. What do you think?
Well, it could. Let's hope so. You know, we did real good on the Halloween show, and we'll have to see. But I hear it's a little windy down by you.
Yeah, the wind's blowing across, blew across from the Midwest, coming all the way east and out to the ocean. So we'll all get a little piece of it. No snow like you're having in the studio there, out the screen. So it looks really good. Looks really like winter out there.
Oh, Burr, it's cold. And these old windows aren't the best, you know. And you see the cabin across the way there. There's hardly any insulation in that building, so it's a little on the chilly side. But we'll get through it. We'll manage.
That's for sure. We want to start off by thanking all of our listeners for this year and the last many years that we've been doing the show. God, I've lost count on how many years we've been doing the show, but it's got to be 6, 7 years, maybe, if
Yeah, I
I'm the
think we've been.
guest.
Yeah, I think we've been doing it since 1937, something like that.
When the Rams beat the Colts.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Let
we've
me
been,
uh let me just turn around and warm up a little bit. Let me
yeah,
turn the
throw
camera
some
around.
logs on that.
Yeah, I'll try doing it and see.
All right.
Yeah, let's turn the
Oh,
camera
wow. Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah,
That's a little bit
you're
warmer.
warming up there by the fire. Nice.
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, so
Well,
uh
gather around the fireplace, folks, because another baseball talk radio show is in the recording stages here, and well, we have a lot of talk about, even though it's hot stove season. Time for reflection
right.
back to 2020 a little bit, the season we had, and looking forward to the next year as we usually do.
Yeah, and we've got the hot stove sort of
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah, it's warm,
It's not
warm over
a hot
there.
belly stove, but you know, it's good. It's close. Got some wood going
I'm
and
wearing
all of
my
that.
baseball talk radio show
There you go,
T-shirt.
looking good. I went with the Mets musings. I thought I'd
Yeah,
promote my
awesome,
own
awesome.
little bit. But we had a good year, Rich, and you know, unfortunately, baseball had a crazy up and down year, and the shortened season, the Corona 19, the COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, and um, a lot of death in baseball of big name stars this year, Rich. Really, when you think about it, the amount of people that was lost. Um, quite a few Hall of Famers lost their lives this year. I don't have the names in front of me, but I'm going to try to remember some. Joe Morgan, Bob Gibson, Tom Seaver. Who else was Lou Brock? I don't want to say a name, and recently, Rich, we also lost Dick Allen, who a lot of people believe he should be in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
and Dennis Menke, who wasn't a Hall of Famer, but boy, was a good, solid shortstop for a number of years with the early Houston teams, and I believe he's with the Braves when they were in Milwaukee, or I think he might even have a stint in Philly too at one point. I don't remember that, but uh, lost a lot of the game's greats this year, Rich.
Yes, we did. As you mentioned, Lou Brock passed away at the age of 81. And a lot of these guys, you don't hear about them over the course of seasons. And of course, we know how fast the baseball season goes past. And of course, the years are going past. Yeah, some of these guys are getting up there in age just, you know, inevitably. And it's amazing. I follow a Twitter feed, of course, of my own at fightingphillies.com, and there's one guy that's had his daughter and him were Phillies fans for many years. And he's always posted pictures of like Jimmy Rollins, him, and his daughter. And this was only, seems like a few years ago. She was only about 2, 3 years old, 4 years old, maybe. Now she's 13. So he posted a picture today talking to Cody Ash, which used to play, he used to be with the Phillies. And posted that picture. I was like, wow, that's how fast time goes by. The kids sprout up, people get older, and yeah, it's just one of those things. But yeah, the
It
COVID
is.
season has been terrible all the way around for the public, people that our listeners probably know, and the baseball world, unfortunately.
Yeah, it certainly has, and uh, they did get a season in though, Rich. So we got to give them that, and we don't know what's going to happen in 2021 so far. They're talking about it. They seem like they're going to get ready to play, but you hear whispers that it's going to start late again, and I have a feeling that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to take a little while to get all the vaccinations out. Interestingly, I was reading an article last night by a doctor who claimed that he doesn't think we needed a vaccination for this. Once the COVID runs its course, that it should disappear on its own. And he really was in shock that multi corporations were rushing to produce this vaccination, when in fact he claimed that once the virus goes extinct eventually, um, they may not have been needed. So, little food for thought on that. Just every day that the sun rises, there's new information and new thoughts about that. But yeah, certainly glad to turn the page soon on 2020. If you can ever say a year has been probably a bad year, I think you could point to this year.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And I think a lot of people are ready to go, though. Some people may have had a successful year, and God bless them if they did. But I think overall, people are pretty fed up with the lockdowns and uh, you know, uh, everything is in turmoil, and the holidays being canceled and church services and all of that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I think people will be glad to see this year go adios next week.
And, my town where I live, it's a small little town, but, I stumbled upon their broadcast one Sunday, and I was like, wow, this is pretty nice. Like, I'm not one to get ready early on a Sunday morning, run out for church. I mean, I wish I was most of the time, but I'm not. So when I tuned in on Facebook, I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm still laying in bed, getting, my orange juice, a little toast maybe, and I can watch the service. It was fun.
Well, that could be the future of it, and I think some of the churches are a little afraid of that. That people will do it that way, but
Well, I mean, you can still support it. That's the good thing. You
that's the
feel
thing,
like you're there.
and maybe brick and mortar going to be replaced by studios somewhere or something,
Yeah.
I know it's if you look on YouTube, I do a lot of the video stuff here, and I'm always watching videos, and a lot of the stuff that you see on YouTube is either gamers or people talking about setting up and doing church services, and it's I remember a video I watched a couple years ago. It was quite simplistic,
Uh-huh.
and now it's so elaborate that it's really they've really taken it that extra step. But a lot of that has to do, as we well know in the podcast world, with how the technology has changed, where these companies see an opening for something and make their product easier, or create a new product that's easier to work with, that will do the same thing or close to a $10,000 broadcast studio you can do with a $500 software,
Yeah, and you're
or
you're
close
the
to it.
you're probably one of the kings of innovation with
Oh,
that. You're
no, no,
I love.
far, thank you, but far from it.
No, really, I honestly mean that. And while I'm saying some compliments, let's compliment the broadcasters of baseball this year. They had a tough job to do, calling games from their hometown studios in most instances. They had to go to the ballpark, watch the game on television. Sometimes I didn't even notice the difference
Yeah.
of them not being at the park.
Yeah, that's true. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because it's got to be difficult. You sitting. I know the Mets announcers used to do every game from City Field.
Yeah,
So when it was a night game in Philly or Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or something like that, they're sitting essentially in a darkened stadium. I mean, the stadium wasn't all lit up for them.
right,
Naturally
exactly.
there was some lights on for them, but they're sitting in a darkened stadium looking out into what? Nothing. Darkness essentially, and watching a monitor with the rest of us. So, yeah, just a bang up job, and they all faced similar circumstances in different ways. There were quite a few teams, I think, that did it from the stadium, and then some did it from the studio. It's not easy, but as we know it live, if you do something live, it can, all kinds of gremlins and problems can creep in. And if you've watched any of the news stations over the past years, you'll see that the same problem. So uh, they did a fantastic job, like you said.
Yeah, they did. It's and you never know what may latch on to baseball in the future. May some teams feel that it would be fine to have a broadcast done now from a certain location and not necessarily at the ballpark. One never knows, the travel expenses, things like that. They could keep down if they really wanted to slice an onion and take some expenses down. They could actually do that. So it'll be interesting to see which parts of the game, hold on to some of the changes that we saw this year in 2020.
It's almost like we're going back in time, though. When they used to do the game in the studio on a ticker tape machine.
Yeah,
Now at least they can see it in real time. But yeah, we'll see what happens if they can save some money. That's less hotels. So I don't know if the who pays for that, the team or the station pays for that. Probably the station, but they might want to save money too going forward.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. And speaking of that, there was an article in Yahoo Sports just recently about embracing change in baseball.
Oh boy.
And, all the changes in baseball, some of the managers are starting to come around and embrace some of these changes. So, things that we've been talking about over the past year with our podcast here, and you've been reading about in papers and things like that and online. Changes inevitably came to the game, and some of these managers in baseball are now supporting it. And I don't know, we still have our opinions on it. I'll share just a little bit of the story for our screen watchers on YouTube, on our YouTube channel here. But basically, what it says is by Tim Brown here, MLB columnist. And he says, in the end, the players seemed weary and owners let it be known that they've lost small fortunes because of empty ballparks in a 60-game season, but they had survived it. So, scrolling on down a little later in the story, it says, in a sign, baseball is more open to change. Major league managers say they're in favor of permanently adopting rules implemented in the 2020 season, including universal designated hitter, free base runners during extra innings, and the expanded postseason. So, we knew this was going to happen, I think.
Yeah, it's I guess it's inevitable, and with the CB whatever they call it, the bargaining contract coming up next year, it's going to be a sticking point, I think, for the players, the union. They want the universal DH because it gets another player into the league. I guess that's their reasoning. I say do away with it completely and expand the roster to two players, but um, I'd rather see more utilized players. But that's the other change that then will occur. They'll they won't use. They're not going to hire one bashing DH. I think we've seen that a lot. The DH as we originally knew it is not that kind of went out the window when Big Poppy retired. Now still got Nelson Cruz, but the teams are using more versatile players and using two or three different guys as DHs and guys that can play the field as well. So and then they don't have to pay as much.
Yeah. And how do us as fans feel about this? That's what I'm more concerned about. Will fans voiced their displeasure with this at the ticket gates? 7 inning double headers, the extra inning rule, that sort of thing. Things that really nobody was complaining about before, but all of a sudden it had to come up where we had to have change in a major way in baseball. And I'm still not sure why.
Well, I think as far as the fans go, I think they're going to be split. I think a lot of people like the 7 game double headers. And the DH people have just thrown a towel in. I think it's inevitable that we're going to have it, and that's that. As far as the uh, the the extra inning thing, I think a lot of people hated that. So I don't, but I've seen people say they liked it as well. So it's going to be a split, and it'll be interesting to see. But I think the DH will be here starting maybe not this season in 2022, perhaps. I think that'll be definite. I think I'm still not sold on the seventh inning doubleheaders. They have it in the minor leagues, and really for the minor leagues, they do it. It kind of makes sense in a way because they don't travel first class, and their schedules are pretty tight, and they don't want to play. They don't want to risk the injuries to players. So, not that because they're young. They're developing the body still at a certain age. They figure when they get to the majors, you should be developed and can go those extra couple innings. But I just think with dinosaurs, Rich, and I think these changes are going to happen. The market that they're shooting at are in favor of these changes, and we've become such a instant gratification world now that people don't want to sit all day at two games like we used to when we were kids and enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't see why people would want to pay more and get less, but it's an interesting world we live in. So um, that could be the case. But I want to invite our listeners to check out our Patreon page. We haven't had anybody in quite some time sponsor the podcast here on our Patreon page. So if you want to, I'm going to put a um, little giftage on for those people that want to come in at a certain level over at patreon.com/baseball talk. That's where you can see our link. And again, if you need that address, you're not sure how to get there, email either me or Gary, and you can do that at rich@baseballtalkradio.com or Gary at baseballtalkradio.com with your question. We'll be glad to help you. If you sponsor a podcast of ours um, for a period of 6 months at either 10 or above dollars per month for us, you're going to have a choice of either a mug or a t-shirt that we'll send you. And it's similar to the t-shirt that I'm wearing right here with the Baseball Talk Radio logo um, on it. So it's pretty cool. If you want a coffee mug, it's a nice 11-ounce coffee mug as well. And again, that goes through patreon.com/baseball talk. Sponsor our show, $10 or more a month. I know it's a lot. It's about $2.50 a week, maybe a coffee somewhere. But we'd appreciate if you could sponsor our show. And after that 6 month period, we encourage you to stay, but we will get you a mug or a t shirt shipped right to your address. So we're going to give a little gift giving here on Christmas Eve, Gary.
That's great. That's great. I gotta get my support in there.
Yeah. So it's going to be a great upcoming season. As you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit like. We got to get up to 1,000 subscribers, and maybe we can do some live um, shows from the YouTube page. Goes out, but we need the 1,000 subscribers first, and we need people to watch the show. So hit that like and subscribe button if you will, and we'd love to do some more of these things. And who knows, as we've been talking about for years, we have good ideas. We'd like to take it someplace, and we need our fans and listeners and our supporters out there, fellow fans like we are, to help us out. We're not sponsored by any company, no baseball teams. um, we we invest what we have to
Oh,
into the show, so that's the way it is.
put another log in there. I was getting a little fire was getting a little
The
low.
fire's getting warm in there.
I did not expect that at all, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, the Christmas is about giving. We want to give back, and we want you to be on Patreon. So they're very respected. They're very safe. Don't feel bad at all about signing up with them. Put your support through. We've had over the years, we've had a few people, and we want to get our Patreon listeners back. I know some shows has 500 or more Patreon supporters, so it goes a long way to put back into the show.
Yeah, it does, and it'll help us in 2021. Maybe try to do more like this,
Absolutely.
except for these strangers walking in, putting a piece of wood in the fire. But,
Yeah, yeah, we got some all kinds of stuff in that
oh
fireplace over
goodness,
there.
yeah, there's more stuff floating around too.
In Jersey, they're going to be burning up different stuff after the
Yeah.
first.
I think in New York they could be burning it down. They keep up with this rate, but
Right?
oh boy, I don't know. I don't know. We're in a tough state, but they're gonna they're going to allow some participants to go to the Buffalo Bills playoff game. So maybe that's the start of letting people back in, though. I don't know. Our states are going to be tough, Rich, and that's why I'm a little leery about the season uh, starting on time, and but we'll have to see. And but one thing that we're going to know about in well, we may not know. Hopefully we do. But what are we going to call the Cleveland baseball team, Rich?
Yeah, exactly. Cleveland Indians sort of coming from left field, so to speak, a few days ago, announcing that 2021 will be the last season that the Cleveland Indians, as we know them now, will exist. After this season, they will drop the Indians nickname. Article in Cleveland.com, a newspaper, saying that really doesn't have the full support of the fans. 55% are uh, opposed to the name change, 33 in favor, and 11 are, non-caring about it. But um, this is just one of those things that comes out of left field. And in my opinion, it's, and for what that's worth, I think it's a compliment to have a baseball team named Indians. If I was an Indian, I'd be like, wow, that's cool.
Well, Rich, again, I think we're dinosaurs in this world, and uh, we would be regarded as all kinds of terrible names. we're giving our opinions out. Um, I just think that it's the coolest logo. Uh, I've got my at home in my studio. I have my Chief Wahoo hat, and I think it's the coolest logo. I think it's a cool name, and I'm with you. I don't think changing it. I think it's this whole politically correct woke generation or whatever you want to call it
Or
that
broke generation.
yeah, that are way off the track and too sensitive about everything and just taking over everything. And but you know what, Rich, we're letting them do it. So because we're afraid they're going to label you some sort of name. They're very big on labels, and they're very big on attacking
But see, that's the
people.
very essence of being abusive, or um, if you want to say, how do you want to say it? Insulting towards somebody, labeling them. Nobody likes a label on them. But as you said, labels are free with that society.
And look, it's like they say Antifa is supposed to be anti-fascist. Just but look at all their tactics. Their tactics is pure fascism. So they don't practice what they preach, and they're full of hypocrisy and lies, and they're getting heavily funded, and that's really the bottom line. Let's face it, that's what it's all about. They're all making money off of this deal, and they get suckers in there that are for the cause or think they're for a cause, and uh, so they've been trying to go after these teams for years, and now it looks like Cleveland, the Redskins were the first ones to fold in football, and now the Cleveland Indians are gonna fold in baseball, and let's hope the Atlanta Braves hold on to their self. I- you could get to a point where you could find wrong with any name, and then what are we gonna do? What about the Blue Jays? Oh well, they eat corn or they destroy. They cause methane, so we have to change that name. What about the Giants? That's an insult to tall people or something. I'm sure you can find a name that's bad. I heard an article yesterday where some colleges not allowing you to use the term brown bag, a lunch.
Yeah,
You're brown
that's
bagging it. It's a bag. It's a paper bag.
completely
It's brown.
completely ridiculous.
And the word picnic is not acceptable. I don't. What's wrong with picnic? It's
Yeah. And
I
it's just one of those things from one day that swoosh got on the uniform of Major League Baseball, now all of a sudden there's all kinds of other changes. So, it's going to be at the risk of some fans. I'm sorry to say, some fans are not going to take this. They're not going to want to buy into this branding, this new political slant that even MLB has been on, um, starting really mainly with last season. I think they've been somewhat, and people have reminded me over the years, they've been political as well, but not to the extent that they did this season. But, Cleveland changing their name under pressure from who or what is a good question. But, out in Vegas, you can bet on what their names will be in 2022. So let's review a couple of the top choices here. Number one, and the favorite, believe it or not, is Cleveland Spiders.
okay, because I think at one point in time they were called that,
Yeah.
and okay, it takes some getting used to, but at least it's okay.
1889 to 1899. So they
Okay,
were originally called the Spiders back then. They were the Naps as well. So I mean that goes back to a different era,
and I
obviously.
I think the naps were because they were led. I think somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. By Napoleon Lajoie or Lajoie
Okay.
was one of them. I believe that's why they were the Cleveland Naps. I'd have to research that, but that and in those days, they would use terms like that. Uh, I'm trying to think because they had a lot of alternate names back in the early 1900s where they would use the manager's name and say, like the Dodgers at one point were known as the Brooklyn Robins,
Yeah.
and I believe because the manager was Wilbur Robinson, and they just, well, that's his boys, so they call them the Brooklyn Robins for a while. Stuff like that. But what else you got? Is that it for the Cleveland?
We got the Cleveland Blues, sort of a play on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame being there, possibly. And way back in 1879, Cleveland's first National League baseball team was known as the Blues. So goes back to that day. Then we have the Cleveland Gladiators. That name was bandied about. The Cleveland Guardians, and last maybe the Cleveland Buckeyes. So
Mm,
some some oddball names coming
yeah,
out of the for us anyway. We're not from Cleveland, but
yeah. I don't know. What about they used to have a hockey team. What was it? The Crusaders, I believe. Maybe they could go to something like that. I don't know if I like the names though. Gladiators, I don't like. Guardians,
Blues.
man, Blues, I don't. Rockers. Somebody said it said. I guess spiders out of all of them would probably be the best. But then you get the arachnophobic crowd that'll say, no, that's disgusting.
It's
But
insulting the spiders.
yes, it's insulting to spiders. But I
Uh,
don't know. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. And
Maybe
and
I'm optimistic. Maybe that's why I don't think that this is an insult, where I take it as the opposite. Hey, if you're going to call me something great to be associated with a team, I think that's an honor. How could
well,
you view that as a disparity
their
or
argument
disparaging?
is, would you want to? Would you? support a team called the Mix, or if you're Irish, or the the Cleveland Wops if you were Italian or something like that. That's what their argument is. It's a disparaging comment to them. I don't see it. Then are the Irish insulted because the Notre Dame University, the fighting Irish? Well, I'm sure there's some
Shh,
people that say we're not all fighting, so we don't
don't
like that.
don't
But
say that too loud. They'll try to
yeah,
cheat.
right. They'll change that. Um, but look, St. John's, they used to be the Redmen. Now they're the Red Storm, or no, what are they? I don't even know. The Red Way. I don't even know what they call themselves anymore. But now my old school, St. Francis University, they changed the years and years ago, not because of political correctness, because they just had a lousy name. When the year before I got there, they used to be called the Frankies,
Uh huh.
and their logo was a guy running around in a hot dog costume, and they changed that to the Red Storm, I think it was, and they've had that ever since, and that was pretty cool. And then what did St. John's change to?
They were what? The Red Men of St.
They were the
John's?
Redmen, yeah. Now I don't know what are they?
So we know
Oh, they're the Red Storm. Well,
we
what the
now
hell?
know where this emanated from. The colleges. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, a lot of it starts there, and then because they're easy to cave in,
Yeah.
Oh, we were the Red Flash. That's what it was. The Red Flash was St. Francis, and Red Storm is St. John's. So I got my two teams mixed up there, but um, Red Flash was better than Frankie's
Yep.
by any amount in how you figure it. But Rich, you know what? It's just the times we're living in, and we live in a time of lawsuits and everything else, and contraction. We're contracting the minor leagues, and now we've got a lawsuit there. The Staten Island Yankees, who were in the New York Penn League, if you remember, which is no longer because they got rid of all the short season leagues in minor league baseball. They are suing Major League Baseball and the Yankees for damages. They had a statement. They ceased operations on December 3rd. They had a chance to go to the Atlantic League, but in doing so, they would have to assume all the costs of players and operation and all of that, and they didn't want to do that, or they couldn't. So they are suing the Yankees for at least $160 million, and claiming that the Yankees promised when they sold the club to them, to the current owners, that they would retain ownership share of the Staten Island club, and it would remain affiliated, the Yankees would, with the Staten Island Yankees. And of course, as we know, they when the New York Penn League went, the Yankees chose not to pick Staten Island as a high A team, which would have made sense because then they would have kept their rivalry with the Brooklyn Cyclones, who's also now the Mets high A team. But instead, they decided to go with the Hudson Valley Renegades, which was another rival of the Cyclones, which is slightly upstate New York. And so Staten Island is suing the Yankees. It's kind of a shame. It's a nice community. It's a nice ballpark. It's got one of the greatest views in professional baseball as you sit there and you look out across and see the skyline of New York and see the ferry crossover into Manhattan. It's really, really a great one of the best views you could ever get from a baseball stadium. Now it's going to be vacant. We'll see what happens. You know, as I said, they had a good shot to be in the Atlantic League, which is a pretty good independent league. And they lost. This is how good that league is. They lost two teams now to major league affiliates. So that tells you something that they built up quite a, and they built up quite a good league there, and they have a team out here in Long Island, the Ducks, that have been very successful out here, uh, and they wanted to take a couple of them in. They and Staten Island could have been in. They would have had a rivalry with the Ducks, but they decided not to, and now they're suing. So we'll see. It's kind of a shame. They took a lot of the teams back in as summer collegiate leagues, wooden back leagues, which I don't know how they're going to draw in that case. And they started a new league for players that were eligible to be drafted that may not have gotten drafted. I forget what they're going to call it, and they've started actually different levels of minor leagues too. As I said, the Mets, because I do a show called Mets Musings. You know about the Phillies. Um, you probably, I don't know. Did the Phillies keep Williamsport? Do you know? Is their high A team or
Uh,
State College? Which one was this?
Not quite sure. I haven't really dove into that yet, but I just don't understand why baseball would want to cut other baseball teams and take away from the experience of fans in those towns. To me, it's anti-baseball,
Well,
but
there are a
uh,
couple of reasons.
and
Baseball wants to control all. Major League Baseball wants to control all of baseball. I read somewhere they even want to go as far as controlling Little League Baseball. So, and then the flip side of why do they not? Why get rid of some of these? Some of these places, admittedly, are in bad shape. I mean, they're playing in lousy old ballparks, and uh, you could see it now. Like, like Hudson Valley, for instance. It's the ballpark is really nice, but it's like the clubhouse is out in right field. So
Mhm.
it's a separate building for the clubhouse, and then there's an outdoor, batting cage right there, and they have to figure out when each team can use it. So it's things like, but their stadium is really nice, and they have the potential to change things around there a little bit, where it meets all the standards for a high A league team. Um, Brooklyn. They were talking about a double A team, so they're in good position there. They built that stadium right, but there were a couple of teams in the New York Penn League, um, that were drawing 50 people a game, 100 people a game, 900 for a short season, and they were playing in a couple of them playing in wooden ballparks still. So it wasn't the best. They kept the cream of the crop. They kept the Aberdeen playing in that really nice ballpark. They kept the ones that had potential and good ballparks and putting money into it. The Mets are putting a lot of money into Syracuse, the AAA affiliate. And they're really fixing that ballpark up nice, um, but that's what it was. There's a lot of ballparks below the standards of what they wanted, and they were trying to figure out how to get rid of them, and this was one way to get rid of them. And you can hear the wolves outside of the window there. I don't know if you hear them.
Right.
barking here in the snow. But that's all part of it. And I get it what you're saying. Why do you want to get rid of anywhere where you can promote the game? But they want to promote it on their terms.
Yeah, kind of a shame. But also in the news this past week, MLB decided, and this is part of that, as you said, they want to control everything. It's kind of scary in one way. MLB notified that the Negro Leagues would now be incorporated into baseball's record books. In other words, when I first heard the story, I was under the impression that, it was an attempt to say, okay, well, they were MLB players as well, in a sense to bridge a gap that was left there over the years for one reason or another. And but more recently, I've just been reading into it, and it's almost like they just want to incorporate the numbers into baseball as well as any um, you know uh, misdeeds over the years for what went on during a time where it was just that time in an era that cannot be changed now. So I just I don't know. We were talked a little bit before the show about it, and I just it's almost like baseball wants to fold everything into its own corporation now and its own entity, and um, wants to change everything that the way it happened. In other words, they want to rewrite history in my book. There's no other reason for this to happen, in my opinion. And as we were both talking about, the stats might be nice and all, and it's a nice gesture, but why now? Why in 2020? Why in 2021 is this happening? Is there a time that I mean, I just don't get it, basically.
I think it's just the times that we're living in, and the riots of the summer, and I think everybody's caving. And look, I have no problem with this. I just, here's the thing. They say Josh Gibson or somebody hit 800 home runs or something. Is he going to be at the top of the home run list now, or is it going to be a separation? Are they going to be in the record books, but it's going to be designated as the Negro Leagues? You know, how good were the stadiums? How, they played in a number of Major League stadiums, but how many did he hit outside of Major League stadiums? How can we verify the numbers?
And if it
Uh,
and if it were my league or a league that I was in, I would be like, no, we were not MLB players. We played for the Negro Leagues, which isn't a bad thing either. Here's an article if you're watching us on the YouTube channel I put up on the screen here. MLB's move to elevate, quote unquote, the Negro Leagues risks diminishing them. And that's what the initial thought that I had. Are you trying to water down the Negro Leagues and incorporate them into Major League Baseball in a sense to eventually blend them into a blender and almost like they didn't exist before? I mean,
well,
that's
isn't that what we're trying to do with all history now in this country?
well, that's what
Well,
I'm,
we're getting
that's my
rid.
stance. And, I think it's great that the Negro Leagues existed. And I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. And I just don't see why MLB is hell bent on, like you said, controlling baseball. I think they're turning in a monopoly. Um, I think that the federal government should step in and look at what they're doing and stop this. To me, it's an overreaching hand. They want their hand in everything. They want to control a game basically in this country like a Gestapo would. Sorry, but that's my opinion.
No, I don't totally disagree with you. I think they want to control everything, and I think it's and I think, like you said, they're trying to rewrite our history. They've tried it with tearing down statues and of Confederates and oh
Hey,
yeah,
thanks for
put another wood
thank,
in there. Yeah, it's getting a little chilly in here. Thank you.
thanks for the log. That's a
Thank you very much. We're starting to die down a little bit.
one of our post production assistants on the show.
I did not know I was there. Anyway, it's just a continuation. Yeah, that's a good point. Are they trying to uh, uh, do away with the fact that there was a Negro League? You can understand it on one hand because the Negro Leagues mean that they were shut out of Major League Baseball, so they had to. But I tend to think of it like you. I said, look at the success that those business owners, that these black business owners created this wonderful league that showcased his players not on the same scale as Major League Baseball, but eventually some of them made it to Major League Baseball. And
And
and actually when the integration of baseball ruined that subdivision of the baseball industry, the
it was
Negro League.
over. It was
Yeah,
over.
because then they had no need for them anymore. So
Collapsed.
I, I don't know. We should try to get maybe Bob Kendricks on here to talk about something like this. He's the president of the Negro League Hall of Fame Museum in Kansas City, and it's a terrific place from what I hear from everybody. My friends from Baseball and Barbecue have had him on, and they say he's a terrific guest. So he would have we should see if we can get him on sometime. But the point remains that I how are they going to do this? I mean, does that article, I did not read the article, does it explain about how the stats are going to be filtered in? Are they going to be considered as major league stats? I- what does it say? I mean, is like I said, is the home run record going to be held by Josh Gibson now?
Yeah,
Uh,
it basically says that as far as they can see, there's only two records that will change in all of baseball as far as at this point. But I think more the aspect of this is the whole reason why, and is it even worth it to try to do this? I think I don't think it's a good idea. I agree with this article that I found um, for researching the show. It's on slate.com. MLB's move to quote unquote elevate the Negro Leagues risks diminishing them. And I think that's par and parcel and very much encapsulates what I was thinking about initially when I heard about this. I mean, I don't know. It's just it's MLB's overreaching hand again, in my opinion, wanting to control everything. And in one way, people can look at it and say, "Oh, it's great, it's nice, it's politically correct, maybe." Um, on the other hand, it does nothing.
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. I think it hurts more than it hinders because, as you said, it's going to diminish them. It's you know, we're not going to have Negro leagues in the future, and is that what they're trying to do? Because the Negro leagues wouldn't meant that they baseball was racist and they couldn't allow blacks in, so they had to start their own. So what's wrong with that, though? I mean, I never saw anything wrong with that. Not letting him in was wrong. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what them taking the the next step.
Accomplishments and
Yeah,
yeah.
and the accomplishment of the Negro Leagues, and just on this the 100th anniversary of it. Now maybe they
Yeah.
think they're doing something good, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll cover the story over the 21 season. I'm sure we haven't heard the last of it yet, for sure, as we haven't heard the last of many things, when the season will start, how long it will be again, spring training, how the COVID virus is still affecting the game. But, Gary, if I think we're about ready to draw some curtains on the show.
Well, I don't have any curtains here, but
Well,
let,
it's
let's go
theoretically.
see. Let before we go, let's just see how the storm is going out there,
Yeah, check it out.
and let's see if it's still. Oh, it's still
Still
coming down
snowing.
at a good pace. Nobody. I wonder if anybody walked by it in that one.
It's a good clip. Somebody peeking out of the studio there, the Baseball Talk Radio Show Winter Studio.
Yes, sir. But Rich, we'll have to see what the future holds for the game and where we go from here.
Yes, indeed. Well said. So make sure you have a great holiday season out there, everyone. I hope you're having a lot of fun, staying safe, washing the hands all the time, wearing the masks. Me and Gary have ours. We wear ours all the time. I haven't worn this one in a while, but I still do.
Yeah.
Um, and have a great holiday season. Keep thinking baseball will be optimistic, Gary. And
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, I hope, like you said, that everybody has a happy holiday, a Merry Christmas, and to our Jewish friends, a happy Hanukkah that's passed and belated, and a happy New Year. And I guess, Rich, we'll see them, and we'll see each other in 2021. It's only a
Exactly.
short week away. It doesn't seem possible, but there it is.
Doesn't seem possible. But yeah, happy New Year as well to all our listeners around the world. And we thank you for tuning in to the podcast. We invite you to YouTube, our YouTube channel. You can see the video if you want to. We're not asking you to, but if you want to, it's there. And Gary does a great job on the video. So thanks for that, Gary.
You're welcome. It's been fun. And we'll work on some more stuff, Rich. So
Yes, indeed. Take care, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy holidays.
bye bye.